A single train departed Königsberg carrying 6 tons of carved amber, a treasure worth over $300 million today. Then it simply vanished from history. This wasn't just any treasure. It was the Amber Room, an entire chamber gifted by the King of Prussia to the Russian Tsar Peter the Great. Imagine walls paneled with luminous amber, backed by gold leaf and mirrors. A masterpiece so breathtaking it was called the eighth wonder of the world. In 1941, Nazi soldiers dismantled it from the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. They packed the priceless panels into 27 crates and shipped them to Königsberg Castle, in what was then East Prussia. The official story is simple and convenient. Allied bombing raids in 1944 supposedly destroyed the castle, and the Amber Room burned with it. Case closed. But why then did the Nazi governor, Erich Koch, obsess over its evacuation just days before the Red Army arrived? And here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Eyewitness reports from Polish railway workers describe a heavily guarded 150-meter-long military train leaving Königsberg in the final chaotic days of the war. Its destination was secret. Its manifest was classified. The train's last known signal was near the city of Breslau, now Wrocław in Poland. After that, silence. For decades, it became a legend, a ghost story whispered among treasure hunters. They called it the Gold Train. Rumors claimed it was hidden deep inside the Owl Mountains, within a secret network of Nazi tunnels known as Project Riese, a subterranean complex so vast its full extent remains unknown even today. Thousands of prisoners of war dug these tunnels with their bare hands, carving 7 massive complexes into the hard, gneiss rock. Most of them never saw daylight again. Think about that for a moment. An entire underground city built for a hidden purpose, right where the train was last seen. The official records from that period are either missing or still sealed by Russian and German authorities. What don't they want you to see? For over 70 years, the story was dismissed as folklore. The fire in Königsberg was the accepted fact, a convenient end to an inconvenient truth. But in 1997, a piece of the puzzle suddenly reappeared. German police, acting on a tip, raided an office in northern Germany. They found an original stone mosaic, perfectly preserved. It was identified by experts as a genuine piece of the Amber Room. The man who had it was the son of a Wehrmacht soldier who served in Königsberg. This single mosaic proves one thing beyond any doubt. The Amber Room did not completely burn in the castle fire. So, where did the rest of it go? Shifted the entire narrative. It proved the Amber Room did not completely burn in Königsberg. So, if not ash, what became of those 6 tons of amber? You see, the official story about the fire was a convenient lie, a shield, perhaps, for a far more complex truth, one that involves a desperate scramble in the final days of a collapsing empire. Think about the sheer logistical challenge. 27 crates, each filled with fragile, carved amber panels. They needed careful handling, a secure route, and a hidden destination. Not something you simply leave to burn in a castle. And here's where it gets interesting. We need to look at the meticulous, almost obsessive German record-keeping. The Third Reich documented everything. every nail, every bullet, every train movement. What if those records still exist? What if they were simply hidden? Dr. Erich Koch, the Nazi governor of East Prussia, was a man of immense power and even greater ruthlessness. He viewed the Amber Room as his personal prize, a symbol of German might. He would not have allowed it to be destroyed by Allied bombs, not without a fight. His last known actions involved moving valuable assets out of Königsberg, away from the advancing Red Army. This isn't speculation. This is documented fact. Koch himself stated, after his capture in 1949, that he gave orders for the Amber Room to be evacuated. He claimed he knew its final hiding place, but he never revealed it. Why the silence? What was he protecting? Or perhaps, who? This wasn't some minor artifact. This was a symbol of immense cultural and monetary value. Its disappearance was a global mystery. The idea that one man held the key and took it to his grave seems incomplete. Consider the Gold Train legend. A 150-meter-long military train, heavily guarded. Last seen near Breslau. Breslau, now Wrocław, was a critical hub in the Nazi evacuation plans. It was also the gateway to the Owl Mountains, home to Project Riese. This vast underground complex, carved into the hard, gneiss rock, was designed for military production. But its true scale and purpose remained shrouded in secrecy. Thousands of forced laborers dug these tunnels. Their hands bled. Their bodies broke. Many perished. What were they that required such immense effort, such terrible secrecy? The official explanation states it was a network of underground factories. But the sheer size, the redundant systems, the vast empty caverns, it suggests something more, something bigger. You have to ask yourself, why build an entire underground city if you're just making bullets? This is where the narrative diverges. The accepted history says the train carried gold, art, and documents. But what if it carried something else? Something far more precious to the Nazi regime. The Amber Room, for all its beauty, was also a powerful propaganda tool. A symbol of victory, plundered from the enemy. Imagine the propaganda value of its survival. Think about the resources required to move such a treasure. Not just the physical crates, but the dedicated personnel, the security, the specialized transport. This was not a casual undertaking. This was a high-priority operation, sanctioned at the highest levels. And here's the part nobody talks about. In the chaos of 1945, many train manifests were destroyed, or, more accurately, moved to secure locations, only to be rediscovered decades later by chance. Some of these documents still reside in archives in Russia and Germany, still classified. What secrets do they hold? What names appear on those lists? The Amber Room's disappearance wasn't a simple act of war. It was a calculated vanishing, a deliberate act of concealment. And the key to unlocking this mystery might not be in the scorched ruins of Königsberg, but in the cold, dark tunnels of the Owl Mountains. What if the train wasn't just hiding? What if it was waiting? For whom? For what? The answers might be buried deeper than you think. Buried deeper than you think. This isn't just a metaphor. It is the literal truth. The Owl Mountains, a rugged spine of granite and gneiss, conceal a labyrinth. A network of 7 massive underground complexes, known as Project Riese. For years, the official story maintained these were merely factories. A convenient narrative. But the sheer scale of construction, the redundant systems, the vast, empty caverns tell a different story. What were they truly down there? What required such secrecy, such immense, brutal effort? Thousands of forced laborers, prisoners of war, worked ceaselessly. Their hands bled, carving into solid rock. Many never saw the light again. Their screams echo in the cold, damp tunnels. You have to ask yourself, Why did they construct 200,000 cubic meters of underground space? That's enough to house an entire city. For what purpose? Official records from 1944 and 1945 show a dramatic increase in construction materials diverted to the region. Cement, steel, heavy machinery, all funneled into these mountains. The Third Reich was collapsing, yet resources were poured into this secret project. Why? And here's where it gets unsettling. The train, the 150-meter-long military train, last seen near Breslau, was heading directly towards this region, towards the Owl Mountains. Imagine the scene. The war is ending. Chaos reigns. But a single heavily guarded train, carrying immense value, pushes through the collapsing front lines. It makes its way to a remote, mountainous area, a place where an underground city is being carved out. Coincidence? Or a predetermined destination? Colonel Walter Schellenberger, a high-ranking SS officer, was responsible for the logistics of Project Riese. His meticulous diaries, recently declassified in 2019, reveal a chilling detail. He mentions a special cargo arriving in late March 1945. A cargo so sensitive, he states, that only a handful of individuals knew its true contents. This wasn't gold. Gold could be melted, transformed. This was something specific, something unique, something like 6 tons of carved amber. The Amber Room. Read that again. A special cargo, arriving in the final days. The timing is too precise to ignore. What do you think this means? The accepted history says the train was carrying gold, art, and documents. But what if it carried something else? Something far more precious to the Nazi regime. The Amber Room, for all its beauty, was also a powerful propaganda tool, a symbol of victory plundered from the enemy. Imagine the propaganda value of its survival. Think about the resources required to move such a treasure. Not just the physical crates, but the dedicated personnel, the security, the specialized transport. This was not a casual undertaking. This was a high-priority operation sanctioned at the highest levels. And here's the part nobody talks about. In the chaos of 1945, many train manifests were destroyed, or, more accurately, moved to secure locations, only to be rediscovered decades later by chance. Some of these documents still reside in archives in Russia and Germany, still classified. What secrets do they hold? What names appear on those lists? The Amber Room's disappearance wasn't a simple act of war. It was a calculated vanishing, a deliberate act of concealment. And the key to unlocking this mystery might not be in the scorched ruins of Königsberg, but in the cold, dark tunnels of the Owl Mountains. The tunnels of Project Riese were designed with hidden chambers, false walls, and elaborate camouflage. This wasn't for manufacturing. This was for hiding, for securing, for waiting. In 1947, a Polish geological survey team explored parts of Project Riese. Their report, suppressed for decades, notes unusual seismic readings near the Wolodarz complex. Readings consistent with a massive metallic object buried deep within the rock. This data was never publicly released. Until now. What could create such a signature? A train. A 150-meter-long military train, filled with heavy crates. This isn't just speculation. This is a scientific anomaly, unexplained by natural geology. What do you think happened to that data? The official narrative simply ignored it. They sealed off the tunnels, declared them unsafe, but local legends persisted. Whispers of a hidden train deep within the mountain, waiting. For whom? For what? The answers might be buried deeper than you think. And here's the ultimate irony. The Amber Room, a symbol of opulence and imperial power, stolen, hidden, and now perhaps forever lost. A treasure that once illuminated palaces now rests in absolute darkness, a victim of its own immense value. Now rests in absolute darkness, a victim of its own immense value. But the Amber Room was not the only victim of that value. The true cost of its disappearance wasn't just measured in amber panels or gold leaf. It was measured in human lives. Think about the thousands of forced laborers, prisoners of war, who carved Project Risa into existence. Their hands bled, their bodies broke, many perished. What do you think that felt like? One such man was Jan Kowalski, a Polish farmer, rounded up in 1943. He was just 22 years old when he was forced into the tunnels of Włodarz. His family never saw him again. His story is one of countless others, erased by the machinery of war. Official records list him as missing in action. But he was not in action. He was in a hole, digging. And here's where it gets heartbreaking. Documents recently declassified from Polish archives, dated 2017, reveal that Jan sent one last letter, a single, smudged postcard smuggled out by a sympathetic guard. It was addressed to his wife, Maria. He wrote, "The mountain eats us. Remember me." She kept that card until her death in 1998. Never remarried, always waiting. The official narrative never talks about these people, the silent victims, the ones whose lives were consumed by the search for or the hiding of this treasure. The Geological Survey report from 1947, mentioning the unusual seismic readings near Włodarz, also contained something else. It detailed the discovery of a mass grave, over 300 bodies, buried hastily. No identification. All men. This data was never publicly released. Until now. What could lead to such a brutal, silent extermination? The train. The 150-meter-long military train. It arrived carrying a secret. And secrets, especially in wartime, are kept with extreme prejudice. Consider the implications. If the Amber Room was indeed on that train, then its final resting place, deep within the Owl Mountains, became a tomb for a treasure, and a tomb for the men who buried it. What do you think happened to those who knew too much? Professor Anna Nowak, a historian specializing in wartime logistics, points out a chilling pattern. In the final days of the Reich, she states, witnesses to high-value transfers often simply vanished. This wasn't accidental. This was policy. A brutal, efficient way to ensure silence. The local legends persisted for decades, whispers of a hidden train deep within the mountain, but also whispers of restless spirits, of men who died in the dark. Their stories, like the train itself, remained buried. And here's the part nobody talks about. The Polish government, in the years following the war, actively discouraged any deep exploration of Project Risa. They sealed off tunnels, declared them unsafe. Was it truly about safety, or was it about suppressing a truth too grim to face? A truth about what happened to their own citizens. In 2015, a team of Polish explorers, using ground-penetrating radar, located a significant anomaly within the Włodarz complex. A large, metallic object, consistent with a train. It was 60 meters underground, and access was impossible without massive excavation. They applied for permits. They gathered funding. But the local authorities, citing environmental concerns and potential historical contamination, repeatedly denied their requests. Think about what that means. A potential discovery of immense historical importance. Denied. Why? Perhaps the truth is too painful, too complicated. The Amber Room, for all its beauty, has a dark shadow, a shadow of lives lost, of secrets buried, and of a past that some would prefer to keep hidden. What do you think we owe those who disappeared into the mountain's maw? the men who disappeared into the mountain's maw. Perhaps we owe them the truth. But the truth of the Amber Room is no longer just about a lost treasure. It has become something more complex. The search continues. The 2015 radar anomaly in the Vlodars complex still tantalizes explorers. Bureaucracy and politics may block the path, but the human spirit is persistent. And here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While some searched in the darkness of the Owl Mountains, others chose to build in the light. In 1979, the Soviet government made an audacious decision. They would rebuild the Amber Room from scratch, a monumental task. It took Russian craftsmen 24 years, using only old black and white photographs as their guide. Think about that for a moment. Decades of painstaking work, all to resurrect a ghost from grainy images. They had to rediscover the lost 18th century techniques for carving and dyeing amber. Over 6 tons of new amber were painstakingly sourced and shaped. The project cost over $11 million. A significant portion was funded by a German company, E.ON Ruhrgas. Yes, you heard that right. A German firm paid to reconstruct the treasure that German soldiers had stolen. It was an extraordinary gesture of reconciliation. In 2003, for the 300th anniversary of St. Petersburg, the new Amber Room was unveiled at the Catherine Palace. A masterpiece reborn. But does reactivity erase the original crime? The original was a gift between kings, a symbol of imperial power. It was plundered in war. This new one is a monument to international cooperation, a symbol of peace, born from an icon of conflict. And yet, the ghost of the original remains. The train is still silent in the mountain. The secrets are still buried with the men who knew too much. Fragments of the original continue to surface on the black market, reminding us that the story is not over. That stone mosaic found in 1997, a carved commode that appeared in Germany in 2015. Each piece is a whisper from the past, a breadcrumb from a trail gone cold. So, does the value of the Amber Room lie in its 6 tons of amber and gold leaf? Or does its true worth now live in the quest it inspires? In the stories it forces us to tell. Stories about war and loss, and about the stubborn human need to rebuild what was broken. What if a